Testing, testing. Hello. I think our levels look pretty good. Sorry I'm a little bit late, but I think we're gonna be okay. Everything looks good. Okay. Good. Just checking everything, making sure we're all set. I think we're pretty much all set. Happy holidays to everyone. This is going to be probably a slightly short session, just because I figure it's the holidays and all that. But before someone asks me how part 2 is going. Someone gonna ask me how part 2 is going? I guess I'll wait for that. Before someone asks me how part 2 is going, I wanted to give you all a quick little sneak peek. I figure what we'll do this episode is give you a little sneak peek of part 2, take some questions, about anything, but probably I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of questions about what you guys have seen, and then. After that, I think that's I'm going to get back to work and finish up just the last few bits on part 2. And the current schedule now is to release this alpha of part 2, which is really still pretty early. I mean, you'll see how early it is, to release that tomorrow. So by tomorrow, you'll be able to play with the stuff that I'm going to show you today. That's my plan. That's my goal. We'll see how it works. I think I'm excited. We'll see. We'll see what it's like to after you guys see it. So, without any further chit chat, let's get started. Let me show you guys. Let me start here. I think this is probably the right place. All right. Let me just set everything up. I'm not gonna show you everything. There's like a bunch of stuff that I think it'll be fun for you guys to discover on your own. But let me just set the stage a little bit. Let me just start by showing you, if you guys haven't seen it already, where we are. This is kind of how things will start. This is human space. This is part 1 essentially. And the Heretic Gate is somewhere around here, and it eventually leads here. When you come out of the Heretic Gate, it's going to come out here in the Mourner system. And here's the rest of the galaxy. Now, a lot of this is not going to be, certainly in the alpha version that you see, you're not going to see a ton of star systems. It's not going to be fully populated, just because there just isn't that much content, but also because I want to leave room for expansion. I really expect that, just like part 1 today, where people have filled in areas like the frontier, and the back roads and all that, I really want the same thing for part 2, and I think because we're going to have the whole galaxy to play with, I think there's just going to be many more areas for people to expand. So one thing I've done in the galaxy map, which I think is going to work, is I've kind of carved out various little areas, as you can see, of the galaxy. And my idea here is that the galaxy is not uniformly accessible via gates or via trans space, kind of the hyperspace of transcendence, and that there are various areas where essentially it's a little bit harder to create gates. So these rifts or these areas between these sections are kind of thought of as maybe slightly harder to get to. It's maybe slightly harder to build gates between them. So even though if there might be a gate connecting these two areas, that might be it. There's like one gate connecting from here to there, and then inside of this area maybe there's like a ton of connections. So in a sense, each of these areas become almost kind of isolated little areas, and you can imagine that it's even fractal, right? I mean, in human space, it's very similar. You get these like multiple areas that essentially have one or two connections between them, but then within the area, within the outer realm or whatever, you've got a ton of connections. It's similar here. You might get like just one little connection here, and then we'll have lots and lots of little smaller areas here. So that's going to give us a lot of room. As part 2 progresses, I think you guys will see, that the storyline will take us through basically these two major arms. This is the Serenus arm, which is kind of the where the solar system is, that arm of the galaxy, and then the kind of the back half of part 2 will take place in the Abaddon arm, this other arm, and there'll be kind of little side things, but there'll be, like I said, whole areas that I don't believe will get used. Maybe this area, maybe some of the edges here. So I'm kind of looking forward to. We'll have to work out how people will do various expansions, and I think that'll be fun. Ignore some of this debug information. This is just debugging for me. But anyways, that's kind of the galaxy. You can see that it's kind of at the appropriate scale. Let me just now get back. Let me get back now here. Another thing that I want to talk about in terms of part 2, and I really do want to caveat, this is very, very early. This is like an alpha 1 of part 2. It's by no means a playable game. It's not like something that's done that you can start playing and having fun with. It's a little bit almost closer to an engineering test. It really is very, very early. But I really want you guys to start seeing all the pieces come together, and I really do think there's enough here now to show off, to see, start getting some feedback, and start getting people to play with. So I'm really excited about that. So those caveats aside, I'm happy to kind of show you a little bit more. One of the things about part 2 that is different from part 1 is that there's 3 major ways of advancing the player's ship. And I've talked about this before, but how in part 1 there's basically essentially just one upgrade path. You just upgrade devices, or maybe get different ships, but whatever. But essentially all devices are compatible with all ships. It's just getting more and more powerful devices, and the way you get more devices is you buy them or you find them. Those are really only the 2 ways. You can craft them at Tinker's or whatever, but in general, that's pretty much it. And same with armor. It's basically just a way of installing something. In part 2, there's really going to be 3 different ways of enhancing your ship, or rather, 3 major different ship technologies, and each of those ship technologies requires a different way of advancing. This ship technology that I'm going to show you now, this is kind of the simplest technology, and this is called the Mechanist technology. And the Mechanist technology is very, very much like the kind of part 1 style of advancement. There's ships, and a ship has a bunch of armor, it has weapons, and it's got devices. It's really pretty standard. There's really nothing special, or nothing too special. The only thing that's maybe slightly special is there's a lot more crafting. In part 2, there's going to be a lot more for this particular technological path. The way to create some of the really more powerful devices and more interesting armors will be to craft them. And is this no, I didn't. I gotta find the forge. There's like a forge somewhere. I'll go find the forge. Let let me just cheat a little bit. Is it Arabian Forge? I'll start with this. There's the Foundry. So there's one in Amaran and there's one in. Is there one here? I'm in Arabian 2. There it is. There's one. Oh no, that's not it. There it is. No, that's not it. Screw it. I'll just map it. Here we go. There it is. There's the Foundry. Okay. So I'll show you some of that. But actually, before I do that, let me show you one other thing about part 2. One other thing about part 2, which I think may or may not be interesting to you guys. Unlike human space, which I think in human space it's just everything's very, very lifeless. You know, the universe in human space, or the systems in human space are mostly lifeless. Part 2, one of the things I wanted to do is to just have it be a lot more lively. And here you'll find, just in these particular systems, our old friends, the Terravores. You know, one of the only life forms that I think you see, you know, one of the only alien life forms that you see in part 1. Here, they're, you know, just one of many different life forms. That happens to be, you know, right there. But there's many other life forms, and as you see, you know, they're all these little kind of critters, just kind of hanging around, doing their own thing, you know, and one of the things that I wanted is that, you know, the asteroids and the environment should feel like there's always, you know, stuff growing on them. There's always like stuff living, and of course there's different types of life, right? This in particular, the Terravores and these guys, Ithalodons, these are kind of sort of metallic life forms. They're life forms that consume minerals, that use, you know, fusion power to power their life force. They're hardy space creatures, almost like rock creatures. You know, kind of like the Horta creatures in Star Trek. Here's another life form which is probably going to try to kill me right now. So these guys, you know, are both enemies and also sources of resources, right? I can attack some of these guys, get some resources from them, and then sell those resources, and then, you know, in some cases, like in the case for some of this particular technology path, I'll take some of those resources and use them at the Foundry to craft some, you know, better armor, better weapons, whatever. That's kind of my goal. This is all like this entire system is filled with more or less a similar kind of ecosystem, which is, like I said, this kytometallic life form. They're kind of rocky creature life forms. But as we visit other systems, you'll see that there's kind of other ecosystems with slightly different life forms. Let me see if I can find a bigger crowd of those guys. Those guys are fun. These little Ithalodon wanderers. They're a lot of fun. Let's see where they are. Although this is a big system, so this is probably all of them. Yeah, they're all just kind of hanging out here. These guys have great resources if you can kill them, but you know, if you start to attack them, they'll like kind of all run away, and then you got to chase them, and they're pretty fast. I don't know if I can get this guy. And then the only other problem with these guys is they have a death rattle. Ow! Oh! Yeah, that hurt. All right, that was a bad idea. But anyways, you get what I'm talking about. All right, let me try again. Okay, well, anyways, you get what I'm talking about with the kind of the ecosystem. Let's check out Let's check out the Foundry just very quickly. Like I said, it's a pretty standard thing, but we'll check it out anyway. Yeah. But now I need all the components. Yeah, so I'd have to get some components, and based on the components, I'd have to basically. So if I get like I don't know, there's probably some hadrotherium something. No, um, yttrium. I don't know how to spell all my stuff anymore. Nope. Oh, that's what I wanted. All right. I think. Is that what I wanted? No, that's not what I wanted. Oh, bummer. Oh, I know. Thulium. Yes, how about a thulium power core? Okay, so now fairly standard user interface, but basically the idea is, I've got one of the components, like I've got this thulium power core thing, and now it can show me all the things that I can build with that, with that thulium power core. So I'll say, well, if I wanted that cannon, I need two of these, two of that, and two of those, or one of those and two of those. And so now I can just basically just get all that and then give them and then build one of those. So that's just a slightly improved UI over something like the Tinkers. But that'll help for that particular path. So we'll see how that path goes. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun, but we'll see. Okay. Let me also let's check something else now. Now that I think I'm done with this system. Let me show you some other things. Here's another technological path. So I told you about these three technological paths, these three ways of building ships. The last one was the mechanist path. Again, very close to what we do in part one. This is the biotech path. So this is all about living ships, ships that you have to grow. So it's not about finding new items. It's really about growing what you've got. So that's one of the things that is going to be interesting about this particular thing. Let's check out this one because I think this is probably interesting. So again, these ships, it's not a ship class, it's a species. One of the things they have is they kind of age and they get bigger and more powerful as they age. There's three major age levels. There's fledgling, adult, and elder. But within each of those ages, there's great gradations. So it's kind of that's kind of how it works. But other than that, you get kind of the basic things. You get they have propulsion, they have cargo space, they have armor, they have things like that. The other thing about the way this particular technological path works is that because it's all about growth, then the concept of consuming fuel, consuming resources, consuming things is much more important. So a lot of things are actually done through the feeding mechanic. The way this works is, let me see if I can buy some stuff to feed it. I'll go in here and see if I can buy some items. Oh yeah, this is pretty good. Oh, I'm gonna need some money though. Let's get lots of money here. These are some. I'll buy some of that. Maybe just a couple because we don't care that much. Oh, this is healing, so I'll buy some of that. That's more just fuel. So basically, the way this works is there's different resources that you just use as fuel. So thulium is just something that you would use as food. So that's essentially the equivalent of fuel. But these other things, instead of repairing your armor at a station, you essentially eat these various biological substances that essentially let you heal yourself. So if I feed this, what'll happen is these are some kind of healing factors. If I feed it, what'll happen is I'll gain what's called healing reserves. So now I have kind of 55% healing reserves, which means I I will heal 55% of my total hit points when I take damage. So as an example, if I were to just fly around and start taking damage, I think I'm actually a little bit damaged. Oh, okay, there you go. So now I'm getting damaged, you know. But you notice I start to heal. There I go, 97%, 98%, 99%. So I start to heal, and healing, yeah, consumes these healing reserves. So if I just keep on feeding it healing reserves, essentially I just keep on regenerating. So that's, and of course, as you can imagine, there's different types of healing, and there's all that. Um, Certain things that you consume, if you feed your bioreactor, there's certain things you can consume that will, essentially be like upgrades. So a lot of the system, the growth system is through that. Similarly, there's at some point you earn enough growth points to essentially grow to the next level, and there's a something here where you can essentially grow. This is like leveling up. You grow to the next stage. You gain growth points essentially just by living. You consume food, you fight, you do things. Mainly just consuming food. Just consuming food essentially gives you growth points, and eventually you get to enough growth points to get to the next stage. And when you get to the next stage, you click this button, and you grow. And growing essentially just your armor gains more hit points, your reactor gains more power. Basically, everything just scales up a little bit, and lets you just be a little bit better. So that's kind of how your ship improves. And then the last thing that we have here in the biotech path are these things called symbiotes. Symbiotes are basically just devices that they're living devices. So they're living devices that this is how you add your weapons, and you attach these symbiotes to your hull, just the way you might attach a weapon. But again, there are ways to, once you have one of these, you can feed them to upgrade them essentially, so that you can have your weapons be more and more powerful. So you don't have to necessarily ever, yeah, like here's a way to grow your symbiote. I've got this particular plasma. So this is my plasma weapon here. Ah, poor Ryan's going mad. Here's my plasma weapon. It's like a level 9. Oops, sorry. It's like a level 9. Sorry, level 11. So level 11 plasma system. I can actually grow it by consuming some of my growth points. Those growth points that I could use to grow my ship, I've got like 48 growth points. Instead of using those growth points to grow my ship, I can instead choose to go in here and use them to grow my weapon. So that's kind of a trade-off. I can decide to either get essentially more armor or better weapons. So I'm going to grow my weapon. Now I'm level 12. I do more damage, etc., etc., etc. So now it's like it's just a better weapon. But now it's going to take me longer to get to the next level in terms of armor and and power consumption and all that. So it's a balance. Which one you want to do. So that's it for this path. This path, especially in the alpha, is not even close to well debugged or well designed or well balanced. There's very very few weapons and armor yet, so that's a lot of that stuff is not quite working. But you guys will get a glimpse of how it works, and I hope to get some interesting feedback. The other thing that's cool about this that I'm going to show off in this system, again, this is a slightly different ecosystem. Although there's not much covering the asteroids. I don't know why. There are these guys. Let's see over here. I'm surprised that there's not a lot of covering these asteroids. Usually there's a little bit more. There's more. This is another one of these. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is another different kind of creature or life form. These are plasmaphores. They basically just kind of shoot out these little seeds. The These little sparks are harmless, but these bigger ones are a little bit more dangerous. They will do damage. Um, but the sparks are just kind of fun. Yeah, this guy needs a little bit more propulsion. So anyway, it's another way in which, like I said, every system hopefully is just has some interesting life forms in it. There's not that much. I thought there'd be a little bit more, but I guess there's not that much in this particular system. All right, let me show you one last thing in part two. Um, that was the Biotech Path. This other path, this is called the RKO Tech Path. The RKO Tech Path is essentially all about unearthing and controlling ancient alien technology. Long before any of these things have were were created or built. There's just ancient technology that if you can unearth, if you can control, and if you can find, you'll be able to get some pretty interesting weapons. This particular ship is from a race called the Efreet. And the way the RKO Tech Path works is very similar to a mechanist path. You have armor, you have devices, but the difference is the devices are known as artifacts, and the idea is that it's you can maybe buy the most basic artifacts, at some kind of shop or whatever. But really, the way to actually find the best artifacts, the best weapons, the best systems, is essentially to unearth them. And I've got one here. This Urgal weapon. Let me just show you guys. Actually, I can just use it. This when I use that weapon, I couldn't have installed it. I can't install it because it's dormant. I would find that item somewhere on some ruin, and I can't just install it because it's completely dormant. It's some ancient artifact, and so I have to actually awaken it first. And awakening the artifact is we do this little mini game. It's a little mini game that is kind of a almost a simplified version of a collectible card game of like something like Magic the Gathering. I don't know if it's going to work out yet, but I think it will. I think you'll find it interesting. Let's see how it works. Basically, I've got this artifact, and what I have to do is I have to awaken it and essentially subdue the AI inside the artifact. Essentially, control the AI in order for it to be useful to me. So let's awaken it. This here is a representation of the AI that I'm trying to subdue. Up here, there's some stats for the AI. They're basically these, will end up being randomized or based on, essentially the type of artifact you're trying to subdue. And there's really three basic characteristics. Each, have kind of different abilities for the AI. But essentially, these are going to be just kind of variants of hit points. My goal in subduing the AI is to lower one of these values. Doesn't matter which one. I have to lower one of those values to 0. If I can do that, I don't know what that is. Oh well. If I can lower one of these values to 0, then essentially I will have controlled the AI. And now to do that, I have these programs over here. These are like different programs that I have. And if I can deploy these programs, I have these 6 slots where I can run these programs. If I deploy these programs, each of these programs does something and can like lower some of these things. So for example, let's look at one of these programs. This one lowers artifact ego by 1 point for each point of compute power. So I've got 3 points of compute power. So if I deploy this, I'll lower ego by 3 points. So sure enough, I deploy it. But now what happens is the AI deploys its programs, it deploys a neural immunity program, and now it essentially halts my my attack, and so now I haven't done anything. Well, that's okay. I've got like a couple more, so I'm going to try to deploy these. Oh, it's got another one, and so I don't quite know. Now, even if I start deploying these, well, I'm not even. I mean, even if I lower it a little bit more, it's really not going to help very much. And of course, he still has more. So none of this was all completely useless. Okay, so instead, let me do, if I were to do synaptic spike, that would be okay. I could do that. This lowers willpower. So let me do that one. And now I've reduced it a little bit. And then maybe I deploy another one. And now I've got it. Um, now, now obviously I've got one more. If I can deploy that one, that'll lower willpower yet by 3 points, which will get this down to 0. Let me show you one. Let me show you the failure case first. The failure case, if I ever fill up, if I fill up all these slots without, like if I deploy this one, which is gonna just hit intelligence. If I fill up all of these slots and this guy is still, not at 0, then I lose. Now I can't. Essentially the artifact wins, and now it's locked down, and now essentially I've lost the artifact. Now I can't do anything with that artifact. So if I try to use it again, it'll just say no, it's locked out. And of course, for some artifacts, losing a battle like that, all you do is you just lose the artifact, and now it's useless. For others, it may have bad effects on your ship. It may infiltrate your ship and hit one of your weapons. Infiltrate and take over one of your other artifacts. So this battle, the stakes could be high. Okay, let me create a new one. And we'll do the victory case. The victory case is a little bit easier to understand. The way to win this particular artifact is I'm going to go for the intelligence one, which I think is a little bit easier. Yeah, so if I do that one and I do that one, then now intelligence gets suppressed to 0. He has no counters, and now I've got it. And once I've done it, it tells me, oh well, here's what the artifact is. It's a Sidon arquebus. It's a launcher of some sort. And now I can go to my station, someplace here, and install it, and now I get some pretty cool stuff. So that's roughly how it works. And as you can imagine, the set of programs that you have in order to subdue the artifact vary. You may start with a small set of programs that can only subdue some types of artifacts. You'll find new programs. You'll subdue archives that yield other programs. You can imagine all the different combinations and all the different ways in which that game mechanic, I think, can work. So this game mechanic is, again, probably even more rudimentary than the biotech stuff. It's really just barely coming together. But it's still, I think there's still some interesting stuff in there for you guys to play with. So it's another thing that I'm hoping to get some good feedback on. Shadow space compressor burnt out. One last thing on the RKO Tech Path, which is again just slightly different. Instead of consuming fuel, instead of consuming fuel by in dribs and drabs, it's essentially you get free fuel, but only if you have these shadow space compressors, and the compressors burn out, so you have to replace them periodically. So it's not too different from the fuel mechanic, but you just have to do it less often. So it's just a slightly different mechanic. Okay, well, that's pretty close. Let me show you one more thing. Again, more living life forms. This is another one of the enemies. These are probably going to kill me right away because they're actually pretty deadly. Oh, there they go. Yeah, that didn't take long. So just a bunch of the different living enemies. Um, we'll let this play for a little bit. So in a nutshell, that's it. That's kind of what I just wanted to show off for today. Um, it's there's that's like the majority part of that, or the majority of part two, in the sense of, certainly in the sense that what took the longest time to develop, and that's really those three different technological paths: Mechanist, Biotech, and RKO Tech, are really the foundation for almost everything else. From here on out, in terms of part two development, it's all about just creating different enemies and allies for each of those three parts. And then, of course, all the missions that will be chained together to tell the remaining of the story. There are no missions in Alpha One. It's still, like I said, very very early, and there's very very few weapons, armor, that kind of stuff. There's some interesting ones, but not too many. Um, you'll discover them, and so a lot of the goal moving forward, all through next year, is basically just building on what we've got. More weapons, more armor, more mission, more enemies, more allies, etc., 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 until we're done. But in a nutshell, that's it. And now let me. Sorry, I've just kind of been brain dumping. Oh, I'm sorry. I did turn off my mic. I apologize. Elbowed the I elbowed the mute button. Uh, I hope you guys are. I hope you guys. I hope it didn't go mute through the whole thing. But um, I'll take whatever questions you guys have about, either about part two or about anything. Um, but essentially, I'll open the floor. Let me see. Yeah. So plan is to release this what basically what you saw, plus a bunch of bug fixes that I still need to work on, um, for tomorrow. Um, okay. Question: Dominant powers, are those going to scale up as well? Great question. They're not in this version. But yes, the idea is you'll start out probably with the standard, the maxed out Domina powers, um, and then when you actually go talk to Domina, you may get some more powers too. So yeah, that's not in this version, but yeah, that's something that will definitely be moving forward. This guy's not. It's cool looking, but he's not that powerful. I think I have to work on some of these weapons. Some of these weapons are just not that interesting. Um, got my shirt by the. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you got it. Thanks again for your support. Let's see what else. Um, a couple things. Oh, okay, I see it. Is it free? Yes. So the current plan in terms of part two, just again so you guys know, is basically tomorrow. What I'm going to do, and I'm fairly sure this is going to work, but I'll test it out tomorrow. What I'll basically do is I'll release a essentially an unlock code. I'll have an unlock code with a limited number of unlocks, but high enough that everyone should be able to get a copy. Um, and it's basically just good for activating part two, essentially all the way through the release. So if you download part two tomorrow, you will have the official release copy of part two once it ships. When it does ship, it will ship, for a price. It will be, I don't know, $6 or something like that. It will be for sale. It won't be a free. it won't be free. But for sure, anybody, tomorrow or from tomorrow until the release, whenever, if you want a copy, again, just you'll be able to use the unlock code, or you can, if we run out, I'll just do a new unlock code. Essentially, any current players, will have part two for free, and then after it's released, you'll have to pay for it, but presumably you'll have it before then. Okay, let's see. When can we expect part three? Yeah. Okay, hang on. Let me see what else. So the issue is spawning the changeling. I'm not sure what's going on there. Did my reopening work out okay? I haven't checked out. I think you're talking about that there's a bug report that you reopened. I don't think I haven't checked it out yet. I was about to check to see whether that was a new game, like a new game started in beta 3, or if it was a game started in a previous beta, because I'm pretty sure whatever bug was preventing the spawning, I think corrupts the game, or at least screws up the game enough that it just won't spawn. But I'm not 100% positive, so that's one of the things I have to look at. I would like to just state that there are now 2 records. Oh, 2 records for API 33 in the ministry. Whoops. Okay, sorry. I'll fix that. I'm a little brain dead, I guess. Yeah, when can we expect part 3? Yeah. Part 3 will take even longer than part 2. One thing that I think is good about part 2, which I think part 2 will be. I think part 2 is going to be so big that it really will take a while to see its full potential. So I don't think people will be expecting part 3 anytime soon. Paid part 2 is likely to be unpopular on Steam if not communicated well. Yeah, you're completely right. I think that has to be communicated very, 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 very well. I'll tell you how I'm going to do it. Right now, if you look at the Steam page right now, it's very clear that says that what you're buying is part 1. So I think it'll be okay. But essentially, if people complain, I'll just give them a free copy. I don't want to piss people off. If you really feel like, oh my God, I should get a free copy, I'm not going to say no. So that's probably how I'll handle it. But we'll see. Yeah, I know. Planning on streaming next week. Oh, that's a really good question. No, next week, let's, I'll be away for the holidays, so next week we'll take a break, and then the next time we'll stream will be on the 5th of January. So we'll skip next week. That's a really good question, because I would have forgotten to say that. Also, I'm still trying to find out how I accidentally broke decon on the Tinkers. Yeah, I saw that. Last stream, I remember you guys, we saw that I didn't get deconned. I don't know what happened. Are you sure it's you and not me? Because I might have broken it. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I will definitely revert the mining laser stuff. I think that's absolutely something. Thank you for reminding me. I'll write that down before I forget, because that's something we want to do. Because they're definitely not quite. There's a bunch of bugs, as you guys said. They look cool, but they're definitely still some bugs, and that's okay. Again, it's all we'll play with it. I had Auton fire a particles weapon. It self-destructed and game crashed. Weird. There may be a crash bug if a player's NPC has active shots and player dies. Oh. I get that. Okay, I'll debug that. Yeah, that's a good bug. I think I know. I buy that. There's something about Yeah, the particle weapon probably has a pointer to the player, and when the player dies, it crashes. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's hopefully that's pretty easy to reproduce. I'll try to reproduce it on my own. Um, can someone in chat tell me what the answer to my question was? Uh-oh, what was your question? Oh, the issue with spawning the changeling. The issue with spawning the changeling, yeah, is I think you need to run. I think you need to create the game, create a new game with beta 3. I think if you start a game with beta 3, you won't have the spawning issue. But I think if you started the game on beta 2, I think the spawning will happen even if it's in beta 3. But I'm not 100% positive, so I'll look into it. Um, Shrike, yes, you're absolutely right. I think relativistic beam on a reflective surface, I think, will not be relativistic. Um, I think for sure you're right about that because you're right. Reflective stuff is always special code, unfortunately. One of these days I'll do a real physics model, and then maybe some of that stuff will fall out, but not that likely. Let's see what else. Um, reflection is always slightly tricky because yeah, I mean it's there's just a lot of stuff. Um, I'll try to remember what you forgot to loot last time. Oh yeah, it was the Lord of the Outer Realms station. There's this Lord of the Outer Realms station that um, there's this Lord of the Outer Realms station that I destroyed that I never looted. So I remember for this session, but yeah, I'm not gonna. Let's just someone remind me in January about that so that I can go loot it, because otherwise it's just gonna be it's gonna be a shame. That would definitely be a shame. Um, Zephyr is working on Super Freighter graphics. Well, that's awesome. I can't wait to see some of those. Can't wait to see some of those graphics. Um, oh, interesting. Oh, that'd be cool. Inject into save game with a patch. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. That will be really cool. One more question. If I can finish Rain in Hell soon enough, would you consider streaming it? Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that'd be so much fun. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, this the current stream. I mean, it's I could spend an infinite amount of time on that series. So maybe we'll just have to put a time limit on it. But because that universe is gigantic, so it's kind of it's not like be able to hit every system. But let me try to level up in that in this particular in this stream in this series. Let me level up to get high enough that I can start tackling some of the bigger guys, and then let's once I see kind of some of the key systems, then I think yeah I'll start a new stream, and then I'd love to do Rain and Hell. I think that'd just be a lot of fun. Um, oh, it's a single system adventure, so we work in less than an episode. Oh well, look, if it's just a short little, if it's a short little single system adventure, I could just slip it in, kind of in between, in the middle of doing this larger one. So that would work too. Yeah, I could do that easily. I think that'd be a lot of fun. The current stream will probably die from incompatibility eventually. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'm amazed. It's gone really really well so far. I mean, just in terms of technical issues, there really haven't been any major technical issues. There are little bugs here and there, but certainly no showstoppers. At least no showstoppers we haven't we haven't been able to get past. So I'm pretty happy with the technical quality so far. Eventually, I'll probably poke you for a minimally modded playthrough, mostly to show off fancy newer SM. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Oh yeah, Rain and Hell with a soundtrack and everything. Oh, I love it. I will definitely do that. Um, get that remix for a track. Oh, that's pretty funny. That's great. That'll be great. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I am definitely looking forward to that. All right. Well, this is it's really been great. It's great. I'm really happy to have shown off part two. Um, I got a ton of work to do between now and tomorrow, but I'm very close. I'm very close. It's really mostly just a little bit of bug fixing and just a few additions here and there. But I'm very very close. So tomorrow, you guys all should be able to play with it, and I'm eager to hear feedback. Like I said, it's super early, so there's going to be a ton of not just bugs, but just plain old missing things. This is probably about the same point as when 0.7 released, just in terms of how much content there is, which meaning not very much, just enough to get a taste of what's going on, but not enough to like completely play. Still though, I hope you guys will find it fun. I hope you guys will find that there's find the potential in it, and I am eager to hear what you guys think. So thanks again. I'm gonna leave you. Thank you all. Happy holidays to everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. But I'll be online, just checking on reactions for part two. So thanks again, guys, and I will see you all in a couple weeks.